What about you? And in the garage today, we have a Porsche 911, and this one is a 2005 model year, and it is a Carrera. So this, of course, is a Porsche 911 Carrera. It has the M96 bar 05 engine, 3.6 flat 6, normally aspirated. So this 911 Carrera, also known as a 997, appears in a television advert for lipstick or something. And if you don't find that too distracting, the owner of this car actually appears in that clip. He's the guy getting pulled out of his own car. So the customer complaint with this car is the guy started it up in his garage one morning, and he noticed it was quite noisy from what he thought was the left bank here. So he took a couple of video clips. Then had a wee look underneath, and he found this. So he took the manifold off himself and found the gasket to be broken. So the reason why the car's in here is the guy wants me to look at it. And we'll have, you may notice we'll have it on tables there from the two poster. So this car here, the engine is right at the back here. So, you know, there's a massive weight base on the ramp. So just for super safety, might as well use them. They're there anyway. So he's not scared of spending dough on this car. Goodyear Eagle F1. They're brand new, looks like. 2 on the back, and what is that? 305/30 by 19. Oh my goodness. So we'll get you underneath. Have a wee look at this. Right, we're handheld now, so it might be a wee bit shaky. So there's that bit there where it was leaking, and you can see a busted stud. So what the crack is here is this guy, the owner, has replaced this manifold gasket himself. There is one there. Can't really see it from that angle, but I think there's one there. Yeah. Anyway, so when I say manifold, these are really headers, but yeah. So what he's doing here, what he's done is, if you can see, he's added in a washer at the back of the bolts here. You can see a washer there. So what he's thinking was that, you know, these bolts are bottoming out in the hole in the head, and it's not clamping the header to the head enough. But we'll see. So my job, what I've been asked to do, is to remove the stud and replace it with a bolt. I don't know how he snapped it, but you know, it is what it is. There's a bit of stud protruding, so it shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully he hasn't cross-threaded it, but we'll have to see. We might need to re-tap it. But I was having a wee look around here, and I'm just not happy with this exhaust at all, the way it's mounted. So if we look here, there's this bracket, and you know, that's a support bracket there. So there's nothing attached to it at all. This is just a, you know, a compressible clamp. So what's going on here then is the headers, you know, those bolts are actually supporting this exhaust. Now, that shouldn't be the case. You know, they're there to clamp that header or manifold or whatever you want to call it to the head. That's what they're to do. That's what they are there to do. So they're not there to take the weight of the exhaust to support it, and there's no supports on this at all. So we'll scoot round. So I'm lying on my back here, but same on that side. The other thing is as well, if we look over here, that's basically touching that flexi. So it is. Get you in there, it's not too bright. So on the other side, it's just about clearing it, I think. So we can see here and there, you know, different bolts, no washers, here and there, you know, just from a quick visual. Sorry about the shakiness, but you'll get the idea, you know. So I think this lack of support is concerning. Now, the other side hasn't been touched. I'm not sure whether this exhaust system has been replaced with an aftermarket job here, you know, like a stainless steel, something or other. I don't think it's original, to be honest with you. It is quite new. Look at these things. They rust like mad, and some of them I know have, well, you know, there's baffles there, and there's mufflers there, or expansion boxes. But yeah, there's a wee bit of an oil leak round the back. So, remain unsealed probably. But anyway, that's not what I've been asked to do. This one here hasn't been touched, but it'll probably, you know, it's a sure shooting, it'll go as well. So you'll have the same problem on this side. And I think it is a bit raspy on this right hand side, although it was the left hand bank that he had the problem with. And he basically diagnosed it himself with the black smoke there, you know, the witness mark there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this exhaust off completely. So here's where we're at. We'll have the header off. So here's what I've done. If you remember when we first looked at it, the guy put washers on these bolts. Now, technically, whenever a bolt that goes into a capture thread is actually a screw, but nevertheless it's a bolt. So I've put a lot of white marker on that, and we'll have a wee look to see if this bolt is indeed too long for the hole. This one here, you see a bit of masking tape on it. Well, anyway, that's the stud protruding out. That was the stud protruding out, and what I've done, I've put a bit of masking tape on it, and that is JB weld around a nut that I've managed to get screwed onto it. I tried the double nut method and all that there, it's not coming out. It doesn't look the straightest, so he may have cross-threaded it. If that's the case,
it's going to be a bit of a pain to unscrew, and we're going to have to dress it up some way. Hopefully we'll be able to recover it some way, because it's going to cause a problem if I don't. I'm adopting that method for the moment, because if I welded that stud onto it, you know, I'm going to have to do a lot of protection or remove a lot of these rubber hoses that are around the place. So I'm going to go for, you know, a more passive method than applying a lot of heat and welding. So I'm just going to see if this glue will work. The only problem is I'll have to let that sit for the guts of 24 hours to properly cure, but that's no problem. So this is what's come off the car, and we can see his new gasket that he's replaced, and close inspection there. Well, this is the stud that's broke, so you can see maybe the exhaust gases are going to they're trying to get out there. So yeah, so it wasn't going to do, and it won't do, so he's going to end up with the same problem again. That's obviously only on, that's quite fresh looking. He had another leak actually that I didn't know about, and it was in one of these colours there. You can see it's all black. If I can get that in the shot. Yeah. So that was leaking out too. Wouldn't have really caused any real problem, but you know, it's onto that back bit there, which is the exit. But yeah, I was making a wee bit of a mess of the underside of the bumper and the heat shield, not leaking like that. I'll show you, there's a great wee tool there for those clamps. You get those clamps on French cars, Peugeots and Renaults and stuff. And these guys here go into there, like so. And that lets you spray them out. Dead easy, one hand. If you ever have bother with these things. The Mercedes ones, you see some they got to have a, you know, weak back on them, so they're dead easy to do, but these ones don't. And that's what we're getting on this Porsche as well. But this may be an aftermarket exhaust. I don't know why it's original now, but that's just another one. Those pliers there, they're Sealy ones, which you can get cheaper ones, but I don't think the cheaper ones are as long as those ones. But we'll leave them in the Amazon store after I do this video. So there's our white paint mark on the bolt, and we can see that if I put that into that header there, that's not going to, it's going to go right in, so there's no problem there. So no white paint mark. So no need for washers at all. And I'm still not sure whether the stud that we have in there is, you know, the threads are misaligned or on the wrong threads, because these bolts were in here, they were really tight. Look at the purchase I had to put on that, and the washers that the guy had used, the fitter had used, look at that there, he just deformed the washers, the amount of torque. These were mentally over torqued. They were so tight it was unbelievable, you know. So the amount of stress he's putting on the aluminium threads in the head, they're all being pulled, so it's just far too much. Look at that there. So anyway, all right. Well, I'll maybe just take the other header off while that glue's setting. So I don't know where the glue thing will work or not, but sure, nothing lost, nothing gained. Well, this JB Weld has been on here for about 20 hours now, and in between times I've been loosening up the rest of this exhaust system. More or less every bolt was rotten, and some of them snapped, and you know, a lot of heat on everything, and just a bit of a disaster really. But anyway, we'll get there. A lot of bolts will need replaced, but the main issue is this. So I don't know where this will work or not, but it'll save me from welding the nut on it. I'll do that if I have to, of course, but we'll give it a go here and see. I'm quietly confident, you know. Here we go. Not too bad. Hope it's not tightening. don't want her snapping. And it's a drilling match. Don't want to have to do that. To be there for a while. We're flying, boys. We're cooking with gas. Now the next thing is, has he cross-threaded? Oh, it didn't work. Oh no. Well, it definitely looks in at a bit of an angle to me. So, I think she's cross-threaded. And we have our rig. Yeah, welded a nut on it. Should have done it at the start, you know. So just welded a nut on it and out she popped. But yeah, she was in at a slight angle, so that's why it didn't come out with the glue. But there we are. She's out now. Probably can't make it out in camera, but about half the threads, I think, are pulled to the side. So he's went in at an angle, and that's why she wouldn't come out. But yeah, we'll have to see what we can do with these threads here. Try and dress them up. And in case you're wondering, for that bit of wee bit of welding of the nut onto the stud, I had wet rags stuffed up the ports. That's why there's a big washer on that bolt there. So that was holding the rags sort of up in, stopping them from dragging out and then falling out. And then I had a heat shield on this rubber water pipe. But it was only a couple of zaps of weld there, so it worked out alright. Our cross-threading issue had a wee bit of problems there. Now, no big deal if it's sorted. But, so a tap, if I put a tap in, because of this pipe here, this coolant pipe, I couldn't get her in. And I know that on camera it looks at an angle, but that's actually straight there. That's dead straight there. So it looks straight on camera there, doesn't it? But it fouls that pipe. So I didn't want to take all that carry on off, so I had to invented a wee tool, which is basically a bolt. I'll show you a wee bit of that. Well, it's not really an invention as such, it's just using different methods really. So what we'll have here is an M8 by 1.25 thread pitch, which is what that hole is. And I had it deliberately that length so I can eyeball it to see if it's straight, you know. So I'll show you how I kept it straight. And we'll have a chamfer at the top and we'll have a slit in it. So as you can see, there's still a bit of debris from some of the aluminium threads that they're now sort of gone. So the guy's destroyed the first couple of threads in this, so whenever we get past that and then on up in, it's fine. So your debris then gets caught in the slot there, and that allows you to screw it in. The chamfer at the top then is made by this wee tool, one of them wee guys there. You can put it on the end of a drill, or I have it rigged here. It just goes onto a quarter driver. It goes onto the wee impact. So give it a bit of a chamfer, cut a slot on it, and then the other bit is we'll have a nut with a washer on it. So there's a nut like that that's screwed down onto that. And the reason for that is to keep it stable. So whenever you put the socket on it, and you want to try and do this with a socket so you can, you know. So what I did there was I was able to sort of keep pressure on it and eyeball it to keep it straight, you know. And the socket backs onto that washer there. So you know, if that washer wasn't there, you know, that would fall down into the socket and it would just wobble about all over the place. So that allows you to sort of control it and steer it as such. So that's how we did it. And as a double check, our wee bolt with white paint goes right up in that we did earlier on to make sure. So I know that the hole in the head, the threaded hole in the head, will accept one of these bolts the full length, and it'll take torque to make a seal on the headers there. So because of the exhaust more or less completely disconnected, I've decided I'm going to take this other bank off and replace the gasket here just in case that he's going to have the same problem occurring on this one. So it'd be interesting to see if it would take this off, what state the manifold gasket or header gasket is here. This one doesn't appear to be leaking, but just in case it's not far behind the other one, you know.
This is the header from the other side, the side without the snapped bolt, and so the right hand bank as you're looking at the back of the car. So we can see the gasket in this one is not long for this earth as well. So I was going to blow out on them too. Now we can see it there as well. Okay, so the weak points, these narrow parts of these gaskets here, the looks of it. So that's the way it was on. Now what I also noticed was I had a bit of bother with this rear bolt. So whenever I was going to unscrew it, so turn it around, it started getting tighter on the way out. So I had to heat it with my heat inductor and just tease it a wee bit. Otherwise that would have snapped on the way out, no doubt. So if I had just hoofed it with an impact gun or something, it definitely would have snapped and been in the same place. So we'll get our wee reamer tool, or homemade reamer tool with a cut on it, and I'll just go around all these threads. What I need to do is the threads in the head, you know. So I need to clean up all these surfaces here. That's going to go in the bin, and definitely can't put that back on again. So this was the good one, the good side, you know, but wasn't going to be good for very long. So with the surfaces all cleaned up, and I can tell you it is time consuming because you're upside down, you know. And yeah, so we'll get all these bolts in, new gaskets, and 17 foot-pounds or 23 newton meters. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it's more than enough, I can tell you. So 23 newton meters in that, and all tightened up. But the thing about the cause of this problem, I think, is that these pipes were unsupported. So if we look at our headers, if you imagine putting something on the end of that and pulling down on it, if you imagine, you know, the car's going along the road and it's bouncing up and down, you know, so the rest of this exhaust system was just acting on this part of the header, and it was just trying to, you know, pull that up and down. So it's sort of, you know, widened the interface with the head. So nothing's stopping that from happening here. So there's a support bracket at the back of these pipes. When I first got this car, there was nothing here at all. And the bolts that were in here were all rusted solid. So we've got them out, got them replaced. So this has been time consuming with heat inductors and everything, you know, getting a lot of these bolts out and a lot of these freed. And we're having to just replace everything as we go along. So we need to come up with something that will attach this to there, and that will stop the forces acting on the headers. So I'm thinking about using one of these band clamps here, but it's too big, but we'll see what we can do. And here's that there. That, lucky enough I had that. That is off a Golf, a Volkswagen Golf, I think, if I remember correctly. So because it was in good nick, I kept it. And you can see the sleeve collapses in whenever you squeeze it in. There's a wee dimple on it there to keep it in a certain place. So you see a lot of these here, and they're rusted out, and these clamps rust away to nothing on these collapsible sleeves, especially in the smaller cars. Now, that sort of style is what is holding this exhaust together on this car. So that's the same sort of style there. But what I'm going to do then, because these clamps are a wee bit too big, and if it's too big and it's not clamping down, so, you know, I tried that one that's on the car, and these two faces are coming in, they're touching. So that'll just loosen up with all the vibrations and going over bumps and, you know, getting shook about like crazy whenever you're driving along the road. And these cars are quite stiff, of course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this sleeve. I'm going to cut that about there, and then
same here. And I'm going to put that sleeve, that fits through in the exhaust. It'll collapse in. You can just see the groove there. It'll collapse in enough, you know, and the bracket then will go along the back of it and catch the bracket. So the bracket will go in between here, in between there, and we'll clamp it up and see how it goes. That's us now then, all fitted. So this is the support bracket that wasn't being used at all when the car came here, and it looks flimsy enough, but it's to stop this sort of movement here, you know, going up and down. So it does that quite well, and believe it or not, and that is solid. It is really rigid now. So this part of the pipe that comes across is now clamped to that. You can see that wee lip there to stop the clamp from going that way. And these are just the normal sort of joiners here that goes onto the flexi. So the way you go about these type of systems, these type of exhausts, is this bit here is the headers or the manifold, whatever you want to call it, that goes onto the engine, which is above us. And you know, if you bolt this up tight and then try and clamp it to, you know, that bracket at the engine, then, you know, there's going to be a pull on this all the time. So, you know, this manifold bit, the header bit, needs to go on, and it needs to be clamped to the head with the gasket and torqued up 23 Newton meters, as I said. And then the rest of it gets tightened up progressively. So, you know, so you don't use bolts to pull it in, you know what I mean? Because that's how you'll get leaks then. You know, you don't have any sort of strain in any of these components. So, you know, the clamping, the way that it's clamped to the engine over here, what I showed you, just to the left of the flexi, you know, you don't have that tight and then tighten that up, because that'll not seal then. So don't expect to try and pull things in with bolts. So that's not the way you go about it. So there we go. That's that for this one. If you may have noticed earlier on, the footage was maybe very sort of bright looking coming up on the camera there. Well, we've had a few very sunny days this past wee while, and there's a lot of bright light coming in through the back window of the garage, which is unusual for us. But yeah, I think after doing all that there, I think I'll get an ice cream. Anybody for an ice cream?
You want another picnic, or do you want to go and get an ice cream?
Ice cream.
Hands up for an ice cream.